The check landed on the white tablecloth between the birthday cake and my untouched wine glass. $100,000. My father's signature curled across the bottom in blue ink. He pushed it toward Tori with both hands like he was presenting a crown. Seed money for your boutique, sweetheart. I believe in you. The restaurant erupted in applause. My aunt dabbed her eyes. My uncle raised his glass. Tori stood up and hugged Dad across the table, her blonde hair catching the candlelight. Everyone was smiling. Everyone except me. My fork hung frozen halfway to my mouth. Dad settled back into his chair and turned to me with that same proud smile. You don't need help, Camille. You've always been the resilient one. You figure things out. The words hit me like cold water. Tori sat down and leaned close enough that only I could hear. Don't be salty, Cam. Some of us are actually worth investing in. She picked up her wine and took a long sip. The room kept celebrating. Nobody noticed my hands shaking. Nobody saw me stand up. I walked out into the parking lot and sat in my car while rain hammered the windshield. If you're watching this video, please like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching my revenge story from. I want to know how far it has traveled. My name is Camille Hart. I was 27 years old that night. I worked as a junior product analyst at a data firm downtown, pulling 60-hour weeks to pay off student loans and rent on a one-bedroom apartment that smelled like old carpet. I drove a Honda with a cracked windshield. I bought my work clothes at outlet malls. Meanwhile, Tori had been living in Dad's guest house for 3 years, rent-free, while she found herself through yoga retreats and business webinars. She had never held a real job longer than 6 months. She posted inspirational quotes on Instagram and called herself an entrepreneur. And now she had $100,000. I had $2,300 in my savings account and a promise from Dad that I was resilient. The rain kept coming. I turned the key and drove home through empty streets, making myself a promise in the silence. I would build something. Something real. Something nobody could take credit for or dismiss. Something that would make that check look like pocket change. The favoritism wasn't new. I had just never let myself see how deep it ran. When I was 12, I won the regional math competition and brought home a trophy taller than my head. Dad smiled and said, "That's nice, honey," then spent the rest of dinner talking about Tori's piano recital. She had forgotten half her notes and cried backstage, but Dad called her performance brave and artistic. When I got accepted to college on a partial scholarship, Dad took us to dinner at a chain restaurant. When Tori got her acceptance letter 2 years later, he threw a catered party. I paid my own way through school working nights at a campus library. Tori called Dad crying whenever her meal plan ran out, and money appeared in her account. I graduated with honors and debt. Tori graduated with a communications degree she never used. I thought things would even out eventually. I thought hard work would matter. But sitting in that restaurant, watching him hand her a check that could have cleared my loans twice over, I understood. Dad didn't invest in effort. He invested in the child who needed him most. And I had made the mistake of being strong. The grind started that same week. I posted on 3 freelance sites offering data analysis and operations consulting. My first client paid me $200 to clean up their customer database. It took me 16 hours. I didn't care. I worked from my kitchen table until 2 in the morning, then got up at 6 for my day job. On weekends, I took on more projects. Small businesses that needed inventory systems. Startups that needed growth projections. Each invoice was a brick. Each payment was proof. I drank coffee until my hands shook and learned to sleep 4 hours a night. My apartment became a war room. Sticky notes covered the walls. I tracked every client, every deadline, every dollar earned. My friends stopped inviting me out. My coworkers asked if I was okay. I smiled and said I was working on something. 3 months in, I landed a contract with a tech startup in Orlando worth $5,000. When the payment cleared, I sat on my bathroom floor and cried for 10 minutes. Then I got up and sent proposals to 6 more companies. Meanwhile, Tori's boutique bloomed across social media like a wildflower. The grand opening had a red carpet. Local influencers posed with champagne flutes in front of a wall of roses. The store was downtown Miami, all white marble and gold fixtures. Tori wore designer dresses and posted daily updates about her journey as a female entrepreneur. Dad shared every single post. He commented with fire emojis and heart emojis. He told everyone at his office about his daughter's store. He printed one of her Instagram photos and framed it on his desk. I saw it the next time I visited. Right next to his coffee mug. Tori sold overpriced candles and handbags and something she called curated lifestyle essentials. Her prices were double what you could find on Amazon. She hired 3 employees she couldn't afford. She signed a 5-year lease on the space. I looked at her numbers once when Dad showed me a magazine feature. The margins were razor thin. The overhead was crushing. I gave it 2 years before the cracks started showing. I kept my mouth shut and kept working. 6 months after the dinner, Dad called me on a Sunday morning. "Camille, I need a favor." I was staring at a spreadsheet, halfway through my second cup of coffee. "What's up, Dad?" He cleared his throat. "Tori's having some cash flow issues. Nothing serious. Just growing pains. I was hoping you could give her some advice. You're good with numbers." I set my mug down slowly. "I'm pretty busy right now. It would just be an hour or 2. She really looks up to you." That was a lie. Tori had never looked up to me. She looked past me. "Dad, I'm running my own consulting projects. I don't have time to fix her budgeting problems for free." Silence. Then a sigh. "I thought you'd want to help family." The guilt landed exactly where he aimed it. "I'm sorry. I just can't right now." "Fine. I'll figure something else out." He hung up before I could say anything else. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling like I had failed some test I didn't know I was taking. Then I went back to work. My first real victory came 14 months after the birthday dinner. I signed a contract with a mid-sized logistics company that needed a full operations audit. The fee was $18,000. I quit my day job the same week. My manager told me I was making a mistake. My coworkers said I was crazy. But I had done the math. I had 12 clients on retainer and proposals out to 6 more companies. I registered Northline Metrics as an LLC and rented a desk at a co-working space downtown. It was just me, a laptop, and a phone line. But it was mine. The first invoice I sent with my company name on it made my chest tight. When the payment cleared, I took myself to dinner. Not somewhere fancy. Just a quiet place where I could sit alone and feel the weight of what I had built with no help and no handouts. I cried in the elevator on the way back to my car. Quiet tears. Proud tears. Nobody saw. Nobody needed to. I knew what it meant. I had started from nothing and built something real. That was enough. Family brunch 3 months later. Tori arrived late in a new outfit and oversized sunglasses. She talked non-stop about expanding the boutique into a second location. "I'm looking at a space in Coral Gables," she said, passing her phone around to show photos. "It's perfect. High foot traffic. Luxury demographic. I'm meeting with the landlord next week." Dad beamed. "That's my girl. Thinking big." I looked at the photos. The rent would be triple what she was paying now. She was already underwater on the first location. I could see it in the way she avoided talking about revenue. in the way she changed the subject when someone asked about sales. Her Instagram follower count was growing, but followers didn't pay bills. I noticed other things too. The designer handbag was last season's model, bought on clearance. Her manicure was growing out. She ordered the cheapest thing on the menu. When the check came, Dad grabbed it without looking. I reached for my wallet, but he waved me off. "I've got it, sweetheart." Tori didn't even offer. On the drive home, I added up the numbers in my head. She was 6 months from collapse. Maybe less. The call came at midnight on a Tuesday. I was reviewing a client contract when my phone lit up. "Dad." I answered. "Camille, I'm sorry to bother you so late." His voice sounded strained. "It's fine." "What's wrong?" "Tori needs a temporary loan. Just to cover some vendor payments. She's waiting on a big order to come through." I closed my laptop. "How much?" $20,000. "She'll pay you back in 60 days. I didn't say anything. "Camille?" "Dad, I can't do that. You just started your own company." "I know you have it. That's operating capital. I need it for payroll and expenses. This is family. And this is my business." Silence stretched between us. Then his voice turned cold. "I thought you'd want to help your sister. I guess I was wrong about you." The words hit like a slap. My throat closed. "Dad, forget it. I'll figure something out." He hung up. I sat in the dark, phone still pressed to my ear, shaking. I didn't call back. 2 weeks later, I stopped by Dad's house to drop off groceries. He had been asking me to pick up a few things, and I figured it was a peace offering. I let myself in through the garage. The house was quiet. I was putting milk in the fridge when I heard Tori's voice from the living room. She was on speakerphone. "I'm telling you, if this thing tanks, I'll just ask Cam for a job. She owes me anyway." A woman laughed on the other end. "Does she even know you're struggling?" "God, no. She's too busy playing businesswoman to notice. But if I need to, I'll spin it like I want to learn from her or whatever. She'll eat it up." More laughter. "And if she says no?" "She won't. Dad will guilt her into it. He always does." I stood frozen in the kitchen, grocery bag still in my hand. My pulse hammered in my ears. I set the bag down silently and backed toward the door. Tori kept talking, but I didn't hear the rest. I walked to my car, hands shaking so hard I could barely grip the keys. She thought I owed her. She thought she could use me as a backup plan. I drove home and sat in my apartment until the anger turned into something colder. Clearer. I pulled up a folder on my laptop and started documenting everything. 5 years after that birthday dinner, the bankruptcy filing hit the public record on a Monday morning. I saw it before Dad did. Chapter 7. Hart and Company. Boutique. Liabilities exceeding $400,000. Supplier lawsuits. Unpaid payroll taxes. A lien on equipment. I read every document twice. My analyst brain cataloging each line item. The money Dad gave her was gone in the first 18 months. After that, he kept refinancing his house to cover her shortfalls. I found the loan documents buried in the filings. 3 separate refinances. $260,000 total. Tori had burned through everything. The boutique's Instagram went dark overnight. The website showed an error message. The physical store had a foreclosure notice taped to the glass. Dad called me that afternoon. His voice was hollow. "Did you see?" I saw. "She didn't tell me how bad it was. She said it was just a rough quarter." I didn't respond. What could I say? I don't know what to do, Camille. There's nothing you can do. It's bankruptcy. It's done. He hung up without saying goodbye. I sat at my desk staring at the documents, feeling nothing but a strange sense of calm. 5 years. I had been right. The email arrived 6 weeks later. Subject line, Application, Operations Manager. I opened it at my desk, surrounded by my team of 11 employees in our new office space. The name at the bottom made my breath catch. Tori Kincaid. Her married name. I clicked the attachment. Her resume was a masterpiece of exaggeration. She listed herself as founder and CEO of a successful retail concept. She described rapid growth and strategic market positioning. She mentioned managing a team and building a brand. Not one word about bankruptcy. Not one word about failure. The cover letter was worse. I would love to bring my entrepreneurial experience to your innovative company. I believe my skills in leadership and creative problem solving would be a strong asset to Northline Metrics. I read it 3 times. She didn't know. She had no idea I was the CEO. Our company website listed me as Sia Hart. Our LinkedIn showed my credentials but not my full name in the headline. She had applied to my company without recognizing it was mine. I sat back in my chair and stared at the screen. My heart hammered. My hands were steady. I forwarded the email to my HR director with a single line. Let's interview her. I met with HR that afternoon in the glass-walled conference room. Danielle, my HR director, pulled up Tori's application on her tablet. Do you want to recuse yourself from this? I shook my head. No. But I want everything documented. Record the interview. Standard protocol. Danielle nodded. We record all panel interviews for compliance. That's not an issue. Good. Can I ask why you want to interview her? Her resume has gaps, and I can't verify half these claims. I pulled up the bankruptcy documents on my laptop and turned the screen toward her. Because I want her to see what integrity looks like. Danielle read in silence. Then she looked at me. You're sure about this? Completely. Okay. I'll schedule her for Thursday at 10. Panel format. You, me, and Marcus from operations. Perfect. I spent the next 2 days preparing questions. Not cruel ones. Not gotcha moments. Just clean, professional questions about fiduciary responsibility, vendor relations, and financial oversight. Questions she couldn't answer. Questions that would expose every lie on that resume. I wasn't doing this for revenge. I was doing it for clarity. For truth. For every person she had burned on her way down. Thursday morning. Tori walked into the conference room at 10 sharp wearing a navy dress and heels that clicked on the polished floor. She carried a leather portfolio and smiled at Danielle and Marcus. Then she looked at me. The color drained from her face. Camille? I gestured to the chair across from me. Please, sit down. She stood frozen for 3 seconds. Then she sat, gripping her portfolio like a shield. You're the CEO? I am. This is Danielle, our HR director, and Marcus, our operations lead. Thank you for applying to Northline Metrics. Her mouth opened. Closed. She looked at Danielle, then back at me. I didn't realize, that's fine. Let's begin. I folded my hands on the table. Why don't you walk us through your experience managing operations at Hart & Company? Boutique? She fumbled through a rehearsed answer about brand development and customer engagement. I let her finish. Then I slid a folder across the table. These are public records from your bankruptcy filing. You omitted them from your resume. Can you explain why? Silence. Danielle's pen stopped moving. Marcus sat completely still. Tori stared at the folder like it was a live grenade. Her voice came out thin. That's not relevant to this position. Actually, it is. We're hiring for operations management. Fiscal responsibility is central to the role. I opened the folder and pulled out the first document. Your business lost money every quarter for 3 years. Your liabilities exceeded assets by a ratio of 4 to 1. You had 6 active lawsuits from vendors at the time of filing. I looked up. How do you explain that gap between your resume and reality? Tori's jaw tightened. The market shifted. It wasn't my fault. The market. I nodded. Let's talk about your payroll tax filings. You missed payments for 8 consecutive months. That's not a market issue. That's a compliance issue. Her hands were shaking now. Are you trying to humiliate me? I'm verifying integrity. We take financial ethics seriously here. I slid another page forward. This is a vendor judgment for $32,000 in unpaid invoices. The vendor was a small family business. They went under 6 months after your default. Did you attempt to negotiate payment terms before letting it reach court? She didn't answer. Marcus leaned forward. Ms. Kincaid, can you walk us through your decision-making process when you realized the business wasn't sustainable? What steps did you take? Tori's composure cracked. This is ridiculous. You're attacking me for things that weren't in my control. Leadership means taking responsibility, I said quietly. Especially when things go wrong. Danielle asked the next question. Your resume lists a team of 15 employees. Our research shows you had 3 at closing. Can you explain the discrepancy? Tori's face flushed red. I'm not going to sit here and be interrogated like a criminal. This is a job interview, I said. These are standard questions about your professional history. Standard? She stood up, chair scraping the floor. You're doing this because you're jealous. You've always been jealous. Marcus glanced at me. I kept my voice level. I'm asking about documented facts. If you'd like to address them, we're listening. I don't need to address anything. This whole thing is a setup. She grabbed her portfolio. You can't stand that Dad believed in me. You can't stand that I had something you didn't. I can't stand that you lied to everyone and took no responsibility when it collapsed, I said. Those aren't the same thing. She opened her mouth to respond. Then the door opened. My father stepped inside. Tori froze. Dad looked at me, then at Tori, then at the papers spread across the table. What's going on? I stood. We're conducting a job interview. Tori applied to work here. His eyes widened. She what? I pulled out the chair next to mine. I invited you to observe. For transparency. Dad sat slowly, his face pale. Tori was still standing, her hands balled into fists. This is insane, she hissed. Dad, tell her this is insane. Sit down, Tori, Dad said quietly. She stared at him. Then she sat. I picked up where we left off. Let's talk about the second refinance on Dad's house. The one you requested 18 months into operations. You told him the business just needed runway. But your cash flow statements show you were already insolvent. I turned to Dad. Did she tell you that? His jaw tightened. No. I slid another document toward him. 3 refinances. $260,000 total. The business was never profitable. She knew that. She kept asking anyway. Tori's voice cracked. I thought I could fix it. You thought you could keep taking until someone stopped you, I said. And nobody did. So you burned through everything. Dad was reading the documents now, his hands trembling. Tori looked at him, desperation creeping into her voice. Dad, I made mistakes. I know that. But she's twisting everything. I'm reading public records, I said. I let the silence sit for a moment. Then I looked at Tori. Here's what I'm prepared to offer. A 6-month contract at standard entry-level rate. $42,000 annually. You'll work under Marcus in operations. No management responsibilities. No client-facing work until you've proven reliability. She blinked. You're serious? Completely. The contract also includes a restitution clause. 15% of your gross pay will be automatically transferred to Dad each month to begin repaying what you took. It's voluntary, but it's required if you want the position. Her mouth fell open. You're insane. I'm structured. There's a difference. I slid the contract across the table. This is what accountability looks like. You show up. You do the work. You rebuild trust through action, not words. If you don't want it, that's your choice. She stared at the paper like I'd handed her a prison sentence. I had other offers. Then take them, I said. Nobody's forcing you to be here. Dad was still staring at the bankruptcy documents. His voice came out rough. You knew all this and you kept asking me for money? Tori's eyes filled with tears. I was trying to save it. You were trying to avoid facing reality, I said. Tori stood up so fast her chair tipped backward. You've wanted this for years. Admit it. You wanted me to fail so you could feel superior. I wanted you to be honest, I said. There's a difference. You're a vindictive, Tori. Dad's voice cut through the room like a blade. She stopped. He stood up slowly, hands flat on the table. I've spent 5 years making excuses for you. Telling myself you just needed time. That you were learning. But Camille's right. You lied to me. You lied to vendors. You lied to employees. And when it all fell apart, you didn't take responsibility. You just looked for the next person to bail you out. Tears streamed down Tori's face. Dad, I'm done, he said. If you want to fix this, you'll take Camille's offer. If you don't, that's your choice. But I'm not giving you another dime. Tori looked at me. Then at him. Then she grabbed her purse and walked out. The door slammed behind her. The room was silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. Danielle clicked off the recorder. That's documented. Marcus exhaled slowly. Well. That was something. Dad sat back down, head in his hands. I'm sorry, Camille. For what? For not seeing it sooner. That night, Dad came to my apartment. I buzzed him up and found him standing in the hallway with red eyes and a manila envelope. Can I come in? I stepped aside. He walked to my small kitchen table and sat down without asking. I poured 2 glasses of water and sat across from him. He opened the envelope and pulled out a stack of papers. Loan documents. Refinance statements. Signed checks. I kept telling myself I was helping her build something. That she just needed support. He pushed the papers toward me. But I wasn't helping. I was enabling. I looked at the numbers. $260,000. She told me you were too busy to help. That you didn't care about family. I believed her. His voice broke. I believed her over you. Dad, you were the one working 2 jobs. You were the one who paid your own way through school. You built a company from nothing, and I didn't even notice. He wiped his eyes. I invested in noise instead of substance. I'm sorry. I reached across the table and took his hand. I forgive you. But I need you to understand something. I don't need an apology. I need boundaries. From both of you. He nodded. I signed the restitution agreement. If she takes the job, the money comes to me. I'll pay back the refinances. Good. And Camille? I looked up. You were right. About all of it. 2 days later, the fallout began. Tori's interview meltdown had been recorded per company policy, and when she demanded a copy to prove hostile treatment, HR sent it to her lawyer. Her lawyer watched it, billed her for 2 hours, and dropped her as a client. The recording showed exactly what happened. Professional questions. Documented facts. And Tori's explosion. Within a week, word spread through Miami's small business network. Tori had been in talks with a competitor, a boutique marketing firm that worked with influencers. They rescinded their offer after someone forwarded them a summary of the HR incident. Pride had finally cost her something she couldn't borrow her way out of. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired. I had wanted accountability, not destruction. But consequences weren't something I could control. They were something she had earned. My phone rang on a Friday afternoon. Unknown number. I answered. Northline Metrics, this is Camille. Silence. Then Tori's voice, smaller than I'd ever heard it. I'll take the contract. I didn't gloat. I didn't lecture. Come by Monday at 9. Bring 2 forms of ID and direct deposit information. Okay. She hung up. I sat at my desk staring at the phone. It wasn't victory. It was something quieter. Something that felt like the beginning of something real. Tori showed up Monday at 8:50. She wore black pants and a plain blouse. No designer bag. No jewelry. She looked smaller somehow. Danielle walked her through onboarding while I stayed in my office. By 10, Tori was sitting at a desk in the operations wing under Marcus's supervision. I watched through the glass wall as he explained her first assignment. Data entry. Reconciling client invoices. The kind of work I had done for $200 5 years ago. She nodded and opened her laptop. No complaints. No arguments. Over the next 2 weeks, I saw her arrive early and leave late. She asked questions. She fixed mistakes without being told. Marcus reported that she was struggling but trying. She's got a learning curve, he said during our weekly check-in. But she's not making excuses. Good. You really think this'll work? I looked through the glass at Tori hunched over her keyboard. I think she's finally facing reality. That's the first step. Dad visited the office twice. The first time, he brought lunch and ate with Tori in the break room. I didn't join them. The second time, he came to my office and showed me a deposit slip. First restitution payment cleared. I looked at the amount. It'll take years to repay everything. I know, he said. But it's a start. 3 months into Tori's contract, Northline Metrics landed the biggest deal in company history. A national logistics firm wanted a full digital transformation. The contract was worth $600,000 over 18 months. My team celebrated with champagne in the conference room. I gave a short speech thanking everyone for their work. Tori stood in the back, clapping quietly. She didn't approach me. Didn't try to take credit or insert herself. She just clapped and went back to her desk. That night, Marcus sent me an email. She's doing well. Ahead of schedule on 3 projects. I think she's ready for more responsibility. I read it twice before responding. Let's revisit at the 6-month mark. The growth was real, but I wasn't going to rush it. Trust was rebuilt slowly. That same week, I got a notification that Tori's old boutique inventory was going to auction. Unsold merchandise. Store fixtures. Everything left behind. I placed a bid through an LLC I had set up. Won the lot for $18,000. Then I called a non-profit that helped women re-entering the workforce after incarceration. I have a donation. Business attire, accessories, and some retail fixtures. Are you interested? The director nearly cried. Absolutely. This is exactly what we need. I arranged delivery and told them not to attach my name to it. No press release. No photo op. Just a quiet handoff. 3 days later, someone leaked it to a local business blog. The headline read, "Tech CEO turns rival's bankruptcy into community win." The story painted me as both successful and compassionate. I didn't correct them. I just kept working. At the 6-month mark, I sat down with Tori for her contract review. Danielle and Marcus joined us. Tori looked nervous. I slid a folder across the table. Your performance reviews have been strong. Marcus says you've exceeded expectations on the last 4 projects. She blinked. Really? Really? I opened the folder. We're prepared to offer you a full-time position. Operations Analyst. 58,000 annually. Standard benefits. The restitution clause remains in place until you and Dad agree otherwise. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't know what to say. Say yes or no. She wiped her face. Yes. Thank you. You earned it. I closed the folder. Tori, I didn't do this to punish you. I did it because I needed you to understand that success isn't about who believes in you. It's about showing up and doing the work. She nodded, unable to speak. After the meeting, she stopped by my office. Can I ask you something? I looked up from my laptop. Sure. Why did you give me a chance? After everything? I leaned back in my chair. Because I remembered what it felt like to be underestimated. I just wanted you to prove you could do better. She stood there for a moment. Then she left. I went back to work. 6 months later, I hosted a small dinner at my apartment. Just Dad, Tori, and me. The table was simple. Pasta, salad, bread. Nothing fancy. Dad brought wine. Tori brought flowers. We ate and talked about work, about the company's latest contract, about nothing in particular. It felt normal. Quiet. Real. When dinner was over, Dad raised his glass. I want to make a toast. Tori and I looked at him. To Camille. The daughter who invested in herself when no one else would. I'm sorry it took me so long to see what was right in front of me. I felt my throat tighten. Dad, let me finish. You built something incredible. Not because I gave you money. But because you refused to wait for permission. He turned to Tori. And to you, for finally learning what hard work looks like. Tori smiled, eyes wet. We clinked glasses. After they left, I stood at the window looking out at the city lights. My apartment was still small. My car still had a cracked windshield. But I had a team of 14 people. I had clients across the country. I had something nobody could take away or diminish. I thought about that birthday dinner 5 years ago. The check. The applause. Tori's whisper. If I could go back, I wouldn't change it. That night had been the spark. The anger that became fuel. The dismissal that became drive. Family wasn't about who got the check. It was about who showed up and did the work. I smiled and turned off the light. The revenge had never been cruel. It had been something better. It had been proof. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What does family mean to you? Please share below and subscribe to this channel for more stories like mine.